Welcome, friends and enemies, to this news show presented by Midwest Commentary. I'm here to give you news from the past week, along with any other bits and pieces I found to fit in. So let's get this party going. In U.S. and world news today, the U.S.-Iran war carries on, but there has been a break after 13 days of firing off at each other. The Trump administration imposes new tariffs on dozens of countries, citing forced labor concerns. On Friday, there was a 12.5% tariff on goods from about 60 U.S. trading partners, include Vietnam and China, but 10% rate applies to 17 countries, such as the United Kingdom, Canada, and Mexico. I mean, I can see, I can see both. People don't like it when you add extra money that you suddenly have to come up with when you haven't been paying before. But I can see the fact that, you don't want child labor or anything like that, or forced labor. A seaplane crashes and catches fire in Puget Sound area north of Seattle, but all 11 on board thankfully survive, according to authorities. Wow, I mean, that is insane. But thank God everybody lived, right? A superhero, quote unquote, jumps to the aid of a man in a wheelchair to cross several lanes of traffic. In Little Rock, Arkansas, a man jumped out of a red Jeep. His name is Christopher Harthnall, who was garbed in a Spider-Man costume from a superhero-themed event at a trampoline park where he works. And he spotted the person trying to cross the traffic, who was in a wheelchair, and ran out to help, declaring, "I got you." He swiftly rolled the person in the wheelchair to safety only seconds before the lights changed, and it was all captured by a security camera and was shared on social media by the local police, who thanked him for helping the man safely cross the crosswalk. Good for him. It's really nice. It's always good to see a good story. Brazil uses forensic science to trace gold's origins and to tackle illegal mining in the Amazon. The work takes place at the National Institute of Criminalistics in Brasilia, the country's capital, where the federal police have set up a gold lab that collects and analyzes samples from across the country. It's to help prevent illegal mining. More workers strike as Ebola cases in eastern Congo near 3,000, including over 1,300 deaths. They have gone on strike over payment issues, which is disrupting patient care. The walkout it's a rapidly growing outbreak. I think I reported about this about mid-June, and it is the fastest growing outbreak on record. Payment issue is being resolved, with workers now paid via mobile money instead of cash, and that the backlog should be cleared in the coming days. Mobile money, does that mean digitally, like it's getting deposited in your bank account? Or, if it's like, oh no, we're paying you via PayPal, I'm going to be like, no, I want cash. We'll hear more from the coming days, and the World Health Organization says more than 100 healthcare workers have been infected since the outbreak. And this has been, the Central African nation has been battling the Ebola outbreak since May 15th. Found one. There's a problem with me trying to pick a history fact. There's too many interesting topics, and almost every facet of history interesting, because to know that we've come from so much, including a lot of twisted, crazy things, to the modern society we have today, I think is fascinating. And little fact is about the Ghost People documentary, is about the Holy Ghost People from 1967, a documentary that captures the mystery of snake handling in Appalachia. West Virginia's fading snake handling tradition. Serpent handling rests on a literal reading of verses such as Mark 16:17-18, that they shall take up serpents, and Luke 10:19, which many signs following believers interpret as promises true faith. In services where the spirit is believed to fall, worshippers may lift rattlesnakes or copperheads from wooden boxes, testify, sway to driving rhythms, and sometimes drink small amount of citrotine as another sign. It's emphasis of direct experience of God's power. I would check out the documentary. I would take a look, because there's one person, David Canaday, described the wonder and puzzlement of growing up where snake handling was in its heyday. And he said it ended with the death of a Reverend Wolford. He suspects that the loud music the worshippers played somehow dazed the snakes. It's interesting. So, while it's declined, do I think it'll come back? I don't know. But it goes into depth about it and how interesting it is. So I would check it out. In Nature, the largest male great white shark ever detected on the Atlantic coasts emerges near top vacation spot. The 14-foot shark known as Contender triggered an alert Thursday near North Carolina's Outer Banks when its device pinged a satellite. Ocean Search told The Sun the nearly 1,700-pound shark is likely heading up the East Coast as part of the annual summer migration. Deep Blue, who is the largest known white shark who has been seen swimming off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii, is about 20 feet and estimated to weigh 4,500 pounds. Ugh. But again, just anybody who's going to the beach, err on the side of caution. Be sure to check facts and everything, do a little bit of research and just, be aware. A new monkey species with orange lips discovered in the forests of the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is the 5th new primate species identified in Africa during the last 75 years. It is called the Columbus conigenis, and it was found in Lomami National Park in the country's center-east. It was originally photographed in 2008 and only captured part of the animal, but about a decade later, an expedition by researcher Jean-Pierre Capelle was led to confirm its existence and photographed the monkey 7 more times. There have now been 114 field sightings between 2018 and 2022. It has a very small population, and that's why you don't see it very often. Expert breaks the myth on bees, giving bees sugar water. Setting up hydration stations for bees don't really work. Most effective way to do this, to help bees, is to give them a shaded patch of flowers, either kept watered or by a pond, that they'll have enough water to keep producing the nectar that will help the bees. And shaded plants mean that bees can keep visiting them longer, because bumblebees especially struggle to fly when the air gets above 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Droughts are very difficult on bees, so I would follow their advice if you want to make sure that, bees are doing better. There was a new discovery of an avocado type that could lead to help with more diversity. In Nicaragua, they found a hotbed of avocado species. Boost commercial varieties of avocado. Right now, the natural range of avocado trees extends from Mexico to Peru, but they found this one in Nicaragua, so they could tap into the genetic diversity. And, the ones that are commercially grown are prone to disease, so this could help with their health and resilience besides, growing a different type of avocado, but one that might be more suited to longer travel. And in final nature news, the Seattle darling Jimothy, the raccoon, is scampering into hearts across the world. I have seen him. He is pretty unique looking, and it was the first time I saw him, I thought he was AI. So it's like, who originally filmed him thought he was a cat. And that's, I'm like, yeah. Family, his mother and his siblings are also very protective of him, or they helped him basically grow and be able to live. So I am glad that, you can see Jimothy, and I'm also happy that Jimothy is thriving. The fact he's made a social media sensation, I'm not surprised, but he is showing that he's well at adapting and resilient, along with supported. He has a good support structure in his family, apparently. The missing person of the week is actually missing persons. The Chalk family, missing January 30th of this year from Theodore, Alabama. Mother Aurelia Etta, her daughter Nurika, and her son Anthony. The family was last seen at their residence at the 9000 block of Ben Hamilton Road in Theodore, Alabama around 3 p.m. They were reported missing on January 31st, 2026, and there appeared to be signs of a struggle in their residence. Aurelia is described as a female with a birth date of January 18th, 1985. She is about 5 feet, 140 pounds, and has black hair. She was last seen wearing a maroon jacket and tan joggers. Nurika, aka Zuli, is described as a female with a date of birth of February 15th, 2008. She's about 5'1", 100 pounds, with black hair. She was last seen wearing a black top with plaid pants. And Anthony is described as a male with a birth date of July 9th, 2023. He weighs 30 pounds and has black hair. He was last seen wearing a cartoon character hoodie and blue jeans. If you have any information about the disappearance of this family, please contact the FBI tip line, and also contact your local FBI office or the office in Mobile, Alabama, if you have any information about the family. Farmers Report. This is for the week of July 12th through 18th. Corn is 59% silking by July 19th. Soybeans, 66% blooming by July 19th. Winter wheat, 74% harvested by July 19th. Cotton, 73% squaring stage by July 19th. Sorghum, 34% headed by July 19th. Rice, 47% headed by July 19th. Oats, 97% headed by July 19th. Barley crop, 89% headed by July 19th. Spring wheat, 86% headed by July 19th. The peanut crop has reached 77% pegging stage. And that is it on the crop report. So be sure to thank a farmer for the food you've eaten today. If you're liking the content, be sure to like and subscribe, drop a comment or anything, so that way you can beat the algorithm here and more people can check this out and maybe it get to more people. Crime section today. A New York City stabbing suspect facing hate crime charges. Both stabbing victims are expected to survive. Raul Morales, 51, has been charged with 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder as a hate crime, first-degree assault as a hate crime, second-degree assault as a hate crime, and attempted first-degree assault as a hate crime. The first victim was a 57-year-old Asian man, and he was stabbed in the torso near West 84th Street in West Central and Central Park West. The second victim, a 50-year-old Jewish man, had just stepped outside a synagogue near West 86th Street and Amsterdam Avenue when he was stabbed in the chest with a screwdriver. The suspect yelled Allahu Akbar during both attacks, according to the victims and witnesses. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said Thursday, as she noted that the NYPD was evaluating whether it was a potential hate crime, which it now is. Both victims were taken to the hospital in stable condition and are expected to survive. There is no known link between the perpetrator or either of the victims, and nor the victims knowing each other. I hope they get a full recovery, and I hope that the perpetrator is tried to the fullest extent of the law. Costa Rica captures top fugitive Diablo wanted by the U.S. for alleged drug trafficking. All right. Alejandro Arias Monge, 41, was caught Friday during an hour-long struggle that injured 6 Costa Rican federal agents. One of the federal agents remains in serious condition. Well, I hope that he makes a recovery. The U.S. State Department placed a $500,000 bounty on Arias Monge last year, identifying the alleged drug trafficker as a leader of a violent transnational criminal organization responsible for smuggling drugs into the United States. And the operation undertaken in Costa Rica is an example of the intense work carried out by the judicial power to eradicate crime in the country. He's been a fugitive since 2016 and believed to be responsible for up to 100 deaths. Well, I'm glad that they caught him. Final criminal news. Seattle police are searching for 2 men who parachuted from the Space Needle. They climbed over the glass wall on this past Friday, and flipped over the edge and parachuted down. The jumpers face trespassing charges, according to the public affairs official Brian Pritchard. Security at the Space Needle were unsure where the men landed, and police could not locate the individuals. They have not been identified by authorities and were described as only white men in their late 20s. Falls into the category of, I want to do crazy things. And, somehow think that I can live forever, and no. I don't think that it's like some people just want to feel an adrenaline junkie rush. It's not for me. And if they get away with it, I guess they'll go up there again and try it again, or maybe they'll just live with it. In sports news, Granny Basketball founder reflects on 20 years as national tournament returns to Iowa. What started as a one-time fundraiser to save a historic Iowa school has grown into a national movement, bringing hundreds of women together through basketball, friendship, and a little Iowa history. That is so cool. I mean, they have 32 teams from across the United States and Canada competed in 6-on-6 rules in vintage-style uniforms. All players are at least 50 years old. None of it was part of her plan. In 2005, Barbara Trammell was living in Lansing, Iowa, and the community members discussed tearing down a historic school building where she was attending classes. Inspired by her father, who was a basketball coach, he shared about the state's iconic 6-on-6 girls basketball era. She organized what was supposed to be a single game to raise money. They ended up with 4 teams, so she decided to start a tournament. And 20 years later, the exhibition has become a nonprofit league connecting women across the country. There wasn't much for older women. It became more than competition. They have stress reduction, a little exercise, get to travel, meet other women and people who cheer for us. It's a great need for connection and moving forward towards a common goal. I like that. This week's POW MIA service member is Sergeant Robert Earl Castle. Sergeant Robert Earl Castle entered the U.S. Army from Kentucky and served in H Company of the 2nd Battalion, 7th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division. On June 31st, 1950, he was reported missing in action after the fighting and was last seen slightly wounded at one of the defensive outposts near Kumchon. Was while that regiment was defending a section of Punhoagan Highway from North Korean People's Army elements from July 30th to 31st. The area fell under North Korean control and prevented the recovery of any American remains until U.S. forces retook the area in mid-September of 1950. He did not appear on any official or unofficial prisoner of war rosters, and attempts to locate him were the American forces retook, and any attempts to locate him were unsuccessful. Today, Sergeant Castle is memorialized on the Courts of the Missing at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. His name is also inscribed on the Korean War Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C., which was updated in 2022 to include the names of the fallen. Based on this information, he was in the category of active pursuit. If you have any information, please relay it to the DPAA. May Sergeant Robert Earl Castle and his fellow soldiers rest in peace. This museum piece this week comes from the Louvre in Paris. You know, the one that they had the break-in and the jewelry stolen from? Yeah. I'm focusing on the sarcophagus of the spouses. It's an Etruscan sarcophagus. It's 2 spouses on it in a reclining position. They're shown on a couch made for dining. The husband rests on a cushion while the wife leans back into her spouse. Others say they might be attending a funerary ritual, which for the Etruscans was apparently a very lively party with plenty of food and drink. Sounds like any funeral in my family. Lots of food, lots of drinking, lots of toasts to happy times and good memories. But they're both relaxed and have smiles. They're made out of terracotta, which is also interesting. So apparently it was not done as a whole. It was made up of multiple sections that were brought together. It was most likely a dazzling color, but since most of the color is washed away, it's pretty much, but I mean, it still looks pretty beautiful to me. I mean, the color itself is gorgeous. What a fitting sarcophagus for a couple's final resting place. As far as I can tell, it is still on display at the Louvre. So if you're ever in Paris, I would go and check it out. In pop culture news, Paramount delays closing Warner buyout while judge considers the state's challenge. So there's a lot of disagreement. And there's a challenge from 12 states to block the deal. There's a U.S. district judge who's granted a temporary restraining order to freeze the transaction, but they've made a decision to delay it as this plays out. The case is headed down toward a larger antitrust trial. My guess is it seems to become, there's too many corporations and too many powers in the market, meaning they essentially don't want it to become a monopoly. You would think would have been an argument. That's why when Disney purchased Fox, they had to leave Fox News and I believe Fox Sports out because they already own ABC, a news company, and ESPN, a sports company. So that's basically why it got kind of chopped up. Warner-Paramount merger would bring together 2 of the last 5 legacy studios and a bunch of TV networks. It would come together, which is quite large, quite a big deal. See how this goes moving forward. A Minnesota town now boasts the world's tallest nutcracker. In Laverne, Minnesota, in southwestern, you will encounter a 66-foot tall, massive nutcracker with a beard, mustache, red and striped top hat. Star-spangled nutcracker has a working jaw. He's called Vern the Patriot. We had a ribbon-cutting ceremony on Saturday, July 18th. He stands 65 feet and 7.5 inches tall, with the pedestal pushing him an additional 9 feet. Guinness World Records has the 33-foot tall nutcracker in Neuhausen, Germany, as the largest. I think that you'll just have to go see it. Laverne also hosts a Nutcracker Fest every summer. Their Nutcracker collection, side note, boasts 7,554 nutcrackers and outnumbers its roughly 5,000 residents, and no nutcracker is the same. It's about 30 miles from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and about 200 miles from Minneapolis. So if you're in the area, check out the large, very tall nutcracker. And 3 women world records are set at the annual Lumberjack World Championships in Wisconsin. 66 men and 40 women attended the 3-day competition in Hayward that ended on Saturday. They represented 16 states and 9 countries. Karolina Urbanova from the Czech Republic set world records in 2 events. Meredith Ingebretsen of Hayward set a world record in the women's boom run. Look at their website for next year, and I'm sure they'll give you all the information about the event. As always, any links are available in the comment section on YouTube. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, drop a comment below, even if it's just a wave of your hand or a smiley face. Whatever you feel like helps the algorithm, helps me. And I hope that in some way this has brightened your day, brought a smile to your face, and I will hope to hear from you before the next video. God bless.